Your insiders today are Darren Dreger and Frank Seravalli. And gentlemen, devastating news. The Women's World Championship canceled by Nova Scotia due to COVID reasons. But Dregs, less than 24 hours after, is there a strong possibility we will see the event somewhere?
No question about that. There is definitely a strong possibility. The IIHF is expected to meet on this matter again next week. The hope is that the Women's World Hockey Championship could be played in late August or September. Now, reportedly, Dallas is interested in hosting the event. I'm told that Finland is a potential option. I also know, guys, that Hockey Canada has received calls from Prince Edward Island, from the city of Ottawa, from BC and Alberta. Edmonton always earns a discussion point just based on the success that the city of Edmonton had in the NHL's return to play, and then followed it up with the World Junior Hockey Championship. So there will be options that the IIHF and Hockey Canada can consider for the World Women's Hockey Championship.
Now, of course, that event canceled for now, just a couple of weeks before it was slated to begin. We know, Frank, the NHL will have to make a decision on the 2022 Olympics much, much earlier than that. When would be that deadline?
Well, James, the NHL, the NHLPA, and the IHF are putting a little bit of heat on the IOC. They've set a late May deadline to get an answer from the IOC on things like a financial commitment for the 2022 Olympics, because they need to set their schedule. The NHL schedule for next season is usually announced in June, and they need to know whether they're going to have a 3-week break for the NHL players to go to the Olympics. But the problem is, this isn't exactly priority number one for the IOC at the moment. They're trying to get this summer's Olympics in Tokyo off the ground before they can then handle what's left with the NHL. So at this point, though, all indications are, because I think a lot of people are curious, that the NHL and the NHLPA are working in lockstep in order to try and get this done.
The NHL has other priorities as well in how to finish its own season, and I think we all assumed the North Division playoffs at least would happen in Canada, and then once we got down to the Final Four, depending where we were on COVID, we'd see where it goes. But Dregs, is there a possibility that there will be no playoff games in Canada?
Yeah, I mean, there's a remote possibility of that. That's certainly not the hope or the expectation, but the NHL is at a point where they've got to explore every scenario, and there are 3 primary scenarios. But keep in mind, there's no rush here to make a decision. The NHL believes and knows they have some time. So scenario 1 could be the borders open. It's business as usual between Canada and the U.S. Seems unlikely. Scenario 2, you adopt a U.S. city for the North Division champion. Said team would then stay in that city for the conference final and the Stanley Cup final. And then, as you mentioned, James, the third possibility would see all 4 Canadian teams play out of one U.S.-based venue. That would then become the home for the North Division for both the conference final and if they advance to the Stanley Cup final as well.
Speaking of the playoffs, the American Hockey League is still sorting through its playoff possibilities, but one thing has become clear, and that's that the Calder Cup will not be awarded in 2021 for the second consecutive year. Certainly disappointing news, because the Calder Cup up until 2019 had been awarded 82 consecutive years since 1937 through a world war. So that's disappointing news, as I mentioned. But in this case, there will be the opportunity for division-by-division playoffs if teams decide to opt in. They're still working through that and hope to get an answer in the next 7 to 10 days. And the players will have the opportunity to opt out if they don't want to continue participating, because there will be no additional financial compensation for them.
The greatest moments in sports are usually when the championship team hoists that trophy, and we've lost a lot of them over the last year and more this spring.